Hello everybody. Today we are at the Newlin Grist Mill in Glen Mills. Something I've been wanting to do for a while. This is a wonderful hidden gem down in Delaware County. I've been coming here for years. It's beautiful in all 4 seasons. We're going to take a walk and do a series of videos, and we're going to talk a little bit about the history of the Newlin Grist Mill. Put some photos up. We're going to visit a couple of waterfalls. We're going to have some fun here today, and then hopefully everybody gets something out of it. With me today, Ethan.
What's up?
Allison.
Hi.
They both wanted to help.
Yes.
So without any further ado, let us begin. I've lived in Delaware County for almost 48 years to the day, and honestly, I did not know that this place was back here. I used to hear about it until maybe a little more than maybe 10 years ago, 10 or 12 years ago, that we started coming out here. So as we're walking, we're going to talk a little bit. Right now, I am walking on what used to be the Acatero rail line. I always mispronounce that. I'm sorry. I can never seem to get that right. But this rail line ran for several miles. I know that when I grew up over in Lenai, that used to run parallel to the SEPTA lines that were out there, and right at the old Wawa train station, the Acatero lines would veer off to the left, and the other tracks would head out towards Westchester. And that was an active rail line, and the Acatero line was the line that washed itself into the creek during, I believe, Hurricane Agnes. It washed itself into Chester Creek. Now, interestingly enough, this is also a branch of Chester Creek. I have some notes here that I'll get to when I can. I believe this is the west branch of Chester Creek. These rail lines ran through here. This was an active grist mill. Believe it or not, in 1704, Nathaniel and Mary Newlin operated this mill. And this was a commercially operating mill well into the 1940s. Manufacturing, various different things. I believe flours, grain, flour like for baking, flour for, and grains for cooking. And there's the creek there, and there is so much to see here in this place. There's so much history back here, and it would be too much to even do in one video. I could probably spend a week out here. There's a lot of old ruins. I know there's a mill race over here to my left we can check out. There's 2 waterfalls. There's one that was just recently rebuilt out in the front. They used to have trout fishing out there. I know I used to bring my older son out here trout fishing back in the 90s. I don't know if they're still stocking that. I don't think so. You can fish out here, but I believe it's fly fishing, and I believe you have to be a member of the grist mill organization to be able to do that. Right now, we're taking a walk, and we're going up towards the dam. You can bring your dogs here. But what we're heading towards right now is what's called the Black Dam. And you can walk your dogs through here. Now this rail line, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little later on when we start walking in that direction. But this rail line actually goes all the way out to Concord Road, where there's a couple of restaurants there now at the bottom of, like, if you're going out Concord Road heading out towards Route 1, US Route 1, the railroad tracks used to cross there, and one of those old buildings was actually a train station. This rail line would continue across, and I believe run out towards US Route 322. Eventually this rail line would end up in Chaddsford, Pennsylvania, and beyond. I believe it eventually would go all the way to Delaware. So the long and short of it is, this was a great place for the industry that used to be here at the Newlin Grist Mill. When you get over here shortly, we're going to see where some of the creek and some of the mill race split off. So here's this first bridge, and you can see where you had there's actually a dam over here too. Anytime I see these, I try to go over them for people to get a better idea and a better understanding of what we're looking at. Of course, I encourage people to come here. See, there's your control gate, which is right here, which is what that's what they call that. I'm kind of winging this here, but yes, that was a control gate. Now the water is flowing to the left of me towards that mill race, so I assume that this was how they would control water out towards the mill race and then down eventually to the spillway, which we will be videoing shortly. Right now we're walking over towards the Black Dam and the waterfall. This is a wonderful place to come all 4 seasons to take pictures, take the dog for a walk, or just come out here and get away from the bustle of everyday stuff that we deal with here. But here's the Black Dam and there's the waterfall. Now at certain times when the water levels are higher, that's a little bit more vigorous, that waterfall. And then you have these little rocks here that give you the ability to walk across, and we're going to do that. Just watch, because some of these rocks are actually slippery when they're wet. When you get across here, you can walk out that way. I believe there's 2 ball fields connected with this property still. I don't know if they're active, but there's quite a bit of real estate out here. And here's something a little weird that I didn't see the last time I was out here. Look at this bridge, guys. What do you think happened here? That bridge washed down here from someplace. I don't ever remember seeing that before. This must have been from one of those crazy rains that we had, and that must have came from upstream someplace, because it certainly wasn't here. Unless they built this and prefabbed it and are planning to put it across that shallow part there. We can certainly walk over here a little ways and see what there used to be. It's gotten all grown in, so it might be something that you do in the winter or early spring before all the growth comes back. But so here's another branch to the creek. We used to walk across here and then take this route all the way back to the little sandy beach that's down there where we would skim stones, and I will be getting to that at some point with another video to fuse into this one. But I came back here a couple years ago when we had a decent snowfall. I came here a couple of days later and all the little ponds were frozen over, and I have pictures of me walking out onto that. So here's the dam here, and you can walk up here and take this route. I know some trees fell. I don't recommend anybody do what I'm getting ready to do now. And now I'm going to scale these rocks. Guys, stay down here. I certainly don't want to have one of the kids come up, try to follow me up here and somebody fall. We don't want any accidents here. And I'm doing this holding a GoPro and hoping that I don't lose my balance. Or have any snakes jump out of the... But yeah, here's the top of it. It's beautiful here. And here's the view from up top, down. And that's the little path that we just came through. Throughout the park, or the property, you'll see little benches. See, and here's a bridge here. I'm thinking that bridge that we just saw was washed out of somewhere around here possibly. So here we are at another map. I'm just going to take a brief picture of, video of, just so you have a point of reference. We are near Cheney Road. We just walked along Chester Creek. We're right here. There's a picnic area, a tree farm, another picnic area. And we are going to do now, we are going to engulf or embrace in a trip down a little bit further. Now here is some actual old railroad that's left. These are some old railroad ties and rails from the Acatero, probably saying it wrong, branch. And some piles here of old ties, wooden ties, which yes, Ethan just mentioned there could be snakes in there and Lord knows whatever else hiding in there. Spiders, snakes. So we're going to take a walk down now. We're still heading towards Concord Road and 322 and those restaurants that are down at the bottom of the hill. We're going to walk up here towards what I call the Led Zeppelin Bridge, and you'll see why I call it the Led Zeppelin Bridge when I'm there. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for copyright by saying that. We're going to do a little bit of talking on the way about a little bit more history here about Nicholas Newlin. Nicholas Newlin operated a flour mill here when they were still using water power, and his family actually originated from Liverpool, England, and we all know who some other, I know 4 famous English lads from England named Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, George Harrison, and John Lennon. The Beatles, of course, which I feel is kind of cool that even though it was prehistoric to the Beatles, there's still some history here to music. I just like to feel that little connection to us here in Delaware County. And while we're on the subject of music, because again, I'm just going to keep going off script. If you follow these rail lines down into Chad's Ford, I believe in the area of Ring Road, possibly, in that general vicinity, there is an old picture out from, I believe, 1967 or 68 of all 3 members of Cream, Eric Clapton, Jack Bruce, and Ginger Baker. They did a picture there. They were doing a show at the Philadelphia Spectrum, a series of shows, I believe, because I researched this also at one time, and there's a picture of all 3 of them on the bridge. If I when I go and do my edits for this video, I will actually try to include those. They're not in the grist mill, but it's the same rail line that we're walking on right now, that they came all the way out here from Philadelphia. I think somebody within the production or within one of the promoters knew somebody out there, and they said, yeah, this is a nice peaceful place out in the middle of nowhere. And in 1967 or 68, that was the middle of nowhere. But anyway, back to talking about Nicholas Newlin. So he was a Quaker, okay? Came here in the 1700s, and him and his wife started the mill. Newlin's son, Nathaniel, married Mary Mendenhall in the 1600s, in 1684, believe it or not. And the significance of that, we all know Mendenhall off of Route 52 heading out towards Delaware, or maybe that actually is right over the border into Delaware. It's amazing how, you know, we know these names from famous places, but we don't really know the connections. Mr. Newlin, and by the way, this was actually considered part of Chester County, I believe, during this time period. There was no Delaware County established yet. This was considered part of Chester County. Mr. Newlin was a prominent citizen. He served in varying governing bodies within the council. He was a member of the Justice of the Peace and the courts of Chester County. So not only did Mr. Newlin have a successful mill here, but he also got involved in civics and other types of public service, which is wonderful. And like I said, I could do a couple hours long video just on the history of this place, and you know, it's really worth researching and coming here and checking out. In 1739, Nathaniel's grandson built a house here on the property for the head miller. We are going to look at some of the properties that are here still. I believe there's at least 5 properties still standing here, and we are also very close to where the Battle of Brandywine took place. I mean, when you walk out here on the Route 1, it's just a few short miles down the road. On the right is where Brandywine Battlefield is. And during that time period that we would have had American or colonial and British troops passing through the area, this would have been an active mill with actual workers and everything here working. This mill operated for, you know, several hundred years, and I'm trying to look while I'm walking. I do have it written down here. At some point in time, we can actually focus in on some of these notes here. I'm gonna try to get it out of the sun glare. I have these notes, and this is all off of Wikipedia. That's where I sourced this from, so you can easily get this. This mill was bigger. This property was bigger at one time, and the property was sold. Portions of the property were sold off over the years, but it ended up back in the hands of it went from the Conlin family back to the Newlin family in the mid-50s, 1950s. Somehow it fell back into the hands of the original descendants of the original owners, which is just amazing. That's an amazing thing to have happen. And then he decided to donate this property and have it turned into what, you know, what we have now here. There's a foundation, the Nicholas Newlin Foundation, and he is a 7th generation descendant of Nathaniel Newlin. We are now finally approaching these train trestles here, and without any further ado, we will now let everybody see why I call it the Led Zeppelin Bridge. It is so beautiful. If you continue out here, you're very close to Concord Road now and the restaurants that are out there. This is actually the restaurant parking lots if you keep going. And hopefully you can see this, but it's in blue, and in blue right there. Both spots. Somebody spray painted Led Zeppelin on the bridge. So I affectionately refer to it as the Led Zeppelin Bridge when I come here. We'll take a walk over here a little bit. It's just a beautiful day. Now, like I said, you can come here any season. Winter, fall, spring, summer, and it's beautiful here. There's always something different to look at. Right now it's late August, so you know, some of the trees are starting to brown out a little bit. But this is got wood planking on it, so you can kind of walk on it. But yeah, there's the creek on that side, and we're gonna take a video of us walking along this creek on the way back to the main parking lot area. I'm learning with this GoPro to try to keep the videos shorter so we can manage them easier than just fuse them together. But really cool place here. Obviously you got to watch you don't fall down through the ties onto the ground or into the water. That would not be pleasant. So I recommend if you come here, you're very vigilant where you're walking. Just another shot here of some of the landscape, and there's different markers here So now we're walking on the trail. We left the Led Zeppelin bridge, and we are now walking on a trail that takes us along the creek. This is probably one of those spots that's a tad bit better to travel on in the fall or the winter or early spring, because there is a lot of overgrowth now with the shrubbery. You know, we've had so much rain, I think everything's growing. But there are a few spots that you can step off and kind of go towards the creek if you have a dog that likes to jump in the water. We had our beagle Molly out here a few weeks ago and put her in the water for the first time. It was deep enough for her to swim. Now she's only a 13-inch high dog, so it didn't have to be deep for her to be able to, for her to have to swim to get back out. But this is a nice wide walkway here, and you know, if you have larger dogs, you can walk through here with it, and it's so serene. The only thing I will say is if you have good hearing, you can kind of hear the road from here. You can kind of hear the traffic out on Route 1, but if you just tune it out, there's a lot of bugs and crickets and good natural sounds. And today there's a little bit of a breeze, so we're actually hearing the trees blow a little bit. There's another bench, like I said, from time to time you'll find some benches and some places that just rest. Here's one of the spots that you can walk down to the creek, take a look at the creek. The only thing I will say, it's kind of unfortunate that some of this dead wood's not kind of removed from the water. It kind of does obstruct the flow of water. So I would think when we have bad storms, this is kind of what causes the rain water to stack up in here. Then you'll end up with water up on the island here. But regardless, it's just beautiful to look at. And looks like somebody did something really cool here. So this is in memory of Bryson Christopher Hall. And somebody has all kinds of decorations on here. This is beautiful.
Yay!
A flower that somebody did. This is obviously a tribute to somebody. May they rest in peace. And here's a nice big sycamore tree growing out on an angle. We're going to continue our walk back to the front, and then we're going to do some more videoing out there of we're going to take a look at some of the outbuildings, the other waterfall that was just recently rebuilt, and I'll talk a little bit about, I had a brief conversation with one of the archaeologists out there. I just happened to be here one day when there was an archaeologist out here. This place is so historical that it literally requires an archaeologist to be around when any type of renovations are being made, which is amazing to think. And we're going to walk back here. There's a couple of little bridges, and I'll show everybody the walkway back to the rail line, and then we'll cut to a scene up front. We still got to look at the sandy beach as well, which is a really cool place that you can actually set up a beach chair there and hang out there by the water, which is really nice. It's not real deep or anything, but the kids like to go in with their sandals. And there we go. There's two ways to get up this hill. One, you can walk up the set of steps that are here, which are great, or you can be a little bit more adventurous and take the windy trail there. And I think we're just going to continue to walk up the nice man-made steps here. And my kids are obviously faster than me now, or a little bit more determined, if you will. But yeah, so we just crossed back over, and I have found some railroad spikes, and I kind of want to take them with me, but I leave them. But there are pieces to the railroad, and there's still there's still markers, which, you know, that looks like it's been painted. That might be a trail marker. Somewhere along the line here, actually, there is an old railroad marker with a letter W on it. I don't know exactly where that's at. I know I've seen it. But where you're heading back towards the parking lot, and we're going to do some more filming out there. Okay, so we're back up near the Black Dam. I'm going to take a quick just a real quick little walk up to here just to show everybody this open field. And then we're actually going to, I was talking about going back to the parking lot, but before we get there, we're actually going to walk along the old mill race and show everybody that. And there's some of the wetlands that are there. There used to be a big gazebo up here. I haven't been up here since maybe last year. I don't know if they got rid of it or, oh, it's still there. So there's the big gazebo. There's a lot of picnic areas up here. It's a beautiful place to hang out. But we are going to reverse and head back towards, we're getting there back towards the other part of the parking lot. But we are going to go through the mill race, talk a little bit about the mill race. And you can see off in the distance there the black dam. And they have little places here for you to throw away your dog stuff, which is great. Please don't leave it on the trail. The bottom of everybody's shoes will be very thankful that you didn't do that. Hello.
Hi,
good, how are you? So over the winter, they were doing a lot of work over here near these wetlands. They were putting a lot of new wood planking in. This is loaded with frogs, snakes, some turtles even. I've seen some box turtles back here. Maybe even some snapping turtles, but they were kind of small, so it was hard to tell.
You tried to catch a turtle once.
Yeah, I tried to catch a turtle. Remember that? I tried to catch that turtle and I got all full of mud.
Yeah.
But I did catch a frog in here, and we have some videos of the bullfrogs back here singing. If I live close to here, but if I lived like walking distance from here, I think I would literally find time to come here every day. So here's the mill race. Okay, we already looked at that control damper back there. So that would be how they would control the flow of water through this mill race. Back when this was an active mill, I would have to assume that this water was more robust. That's the word I was looking for, by the way, with the waterfall. Robust. That's the word of the day, robust. So this was more robust at one time, I'm sure, when they were still trying to turn a mill wheel out there. I'm not really sure. This is flowing. It's kind of maybe a little less flow than you would see in like a lazy river if you were at a water park. So here's the mill race. There's several little bridges. We're actually going to we're going to go a little further, and then we're going to go down and check these wetlands out. Maybe we'll spot some frogs. They're pretty quick. So I'm not usually able to get any of them on camera. I've just been able to get them singing on video. We came out here in the evening one time and were able to catch them. But if you look down in here, this is obviously a very good sanctuary for butterflies, all types of insects and everything that people would be into. If anybody was ever needed to do any kind of science experiments for that type of thing, I would think this would be one of the perfect places to go. So here we are. We're going to go down the steps. Like I said, this is all stuff I think they've crafted recently because it's in really, really good shape. They did a nice job with it. Here's a little boardwalk. Here are the wetlands. If you look really close in here, this is a nice little habitat. There's small fish in here. I don't think anything that would be worth trying to catch. Probably small sunnies, some minnows. And I don't want to video anybody without their permission, so I'm trying. Okay, and I have 2 spots here, 3 actually. So we're just going to land the camera on them so you can pause the video and read what's there. We have this this is the other entrance that would have been off of the original walkway we took here. Okay. Yep, snapping turtles. Okay, and then we're going to go over and video one more of them. That's over here. You're good.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right.
Nice day, huh?
Looking for frogs.
You looking for frogs?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're back here. They jump, they scare easily. So here's another one of our little maps. Me too. Down in Lanai. There's a little flower still hanging out there, a little piece of lavender or whatever that is. So we're going to walk this. The mill race would be above us, and I know I talked a lot about that mill race, but as exciting as it is to look at that, this is pretty cool. And there's like a little tiny waterfall here that's very robust. When you see the amount of pressure that's coming through there, you kind of wonder to yourself how that's piped underground, because that really does come through with some force. This is one of the bodies of water that I walked on during the winter. This was frozen solid, and I walked across it. And here's another little set of lily pads to walk across it. Yep, lily pads. We're not frogs exactly. I love frogs. One of my favorite pastimes was sitting at the creek catching frogs back in the day, and turtles. We used to could do that stuff all day if I had the time. But very serene back here. Lots of water spiders. They're harmless. And whoever those lucky folks are, they're driving around in a John Deere little caddy. Now that would be a cool job to be able to work in here every day and drive around and take care of small little things. I am going to try to get back up on that trail, because we have missed a couple of signs in there. But this place is so big and there's so much to look at that you could literally spend days back here just videoing. I mean, that's really just what it boils down to. There's just so much back here to learn about this place, and just so much history to it. Just to think that, you know, there was people operating a business back here as early as the 1600s. It's amazing. So we're back up to the mill race. Another board. Love our information boards. I've read them all at various points in time. There's a lot to sift through with this place. Birds. You couldn't pick a nicer day to be up here. So here we go again. We're back at another device here that was probably used at one time to damper the flow of water to the mill wheel. So here we go, is another one. Interesting. I stepped down into that mill race one time trying to catch that turtle the kids were talking about, and believe me, that mud is very deep. Like, I sunk like halfway up to my knees in there. So all these years of water being in there, that's just very soft ground. Oh, one of my favorite birds, herons. I haven't seen any herons here in all the years I've been coming here, but it doesn't mean they're not here. Herons are very elusive. You don't always see them. You have to look really hard for them. It's a bug. Even though the summer's ending, there's still everything's still out and vibrant. Beautiful big pine tree. So we are finally over at the mill waterfall, and this is the brand new bridge that they just got done rebuilding. They did a beautiful job on this. Now, interestingly, I had a conversation up here, and here's again the mill race, and you can see where the water comes under the bridge. I had a conversation with one of the gentlemen that was responsible for rebuilding this, and they found a lot of things inside the old cement from people in the past rebuilding this, including a box spring from a mattress. And they were talking about how, from an archaeological standpoint, historical standpoint, they had to include that back in rebuilding this, because it was part of this. And, you know, God knows how long that it was in there for. And I don't know when they invented box springs, but if you think about how old this place is, it had to be added at some point after the original construction. But if you take a look at the stonework here, it's just absolutely exquisite. There was a wheel here at one time, and I know there's some talk of putting something like that back. But they just did an excellent job here. This is the little pond that the trout used to be in. Okay, I don't think that they're running that program right now. I'm not sure. I don't see any trout in there. So I'm not sure what they've done, if that's permanently discontinued. But you can see up there where they can control the flow of water. I'm assuming what they do here when we have a lot of rain is they will open those floodgates and allow this water to go, so nothing really, you know, builds up too hard on the dam and creates a lot of pressure on it. And here is another spillway down here for like a relief. We are back down now towards the main entrance, and we're going to take a few shots over here. Again, this is one of the most beautiful places in Delaware County to go and take pictures, especially if you like foliage. It is just beautiful here, and you've got all those beautiful waterfalls, and it's free. You don't have to pay to come in here or anything like that. This is a spot I've seen a lot of rat snakes and water snakes up here over the years, kind of sunbathing on this. But you can see this little waterfall here. Let me see if I can get a better view of it. There you go. Beautiful. You have got water coming in from that direction. I'm going to go over, and then there's another pond, and I did see some fish down in that one. I think they were just some sunnies, but this used to be all full of fish. Yeah, there's some fish there. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to see them. They look like sunnies. This was all dried out. They had dried all this out when they were doing that construction. We're going to take a little walk over here, and here is a really good history. See, in this, they're calling this the Concord Creek Dam. I'm not really sure. Over the years, they've probably changed a lot of these names. You know, if you go on the internet and read, you can read extensive about this place. And yeah, I would assume over the years, there's been different names for everything. Here's when they were doing the fishing here. Your creek trail. There's virtual tours that you can do at the Newlin Grist Mill. And yeah, here's that other little pond over here. Yeah, I'd love to be able to throw a fishing rod in here and maybe pull some of these sunnies out and put them back, but I don't believe that any of that's allowed right now. There's your main parking lot. Allison wants to read about the building behind us.
Okay. So, the 1.5-story Gothic style station was originally built in 1869 by Samuel Hill. It served as a post office and polling station for the community of mill workers in the area. It burned down in 1890 and was rebuilt the next year, serving as a railway station until the 1930s. It is used now as the park office. Very good.
So yes, this was a train station at one time. Those rails that we've been talking so much about literally ran. Unfortunately, they're doing construction here now, so we can't get any closer. But if you look, the rails ran right there. Literally right in front. I mean, it would have been like a 6-foot walk from there to get to board a train, which would have been really cool at the time. We're going to take a walk across the street, across Concord Road, and we're going to take a look at some more of these buildings back here. Stay tuned. And here's Ethan to talk about the old warehouse.
The warehouse is a 2.5-story stone building to the east of lower level of the mill. It was built by Nathaniel Newlin. After he built the mill to use as a dry goods store. It now serves as the Foundation Archive.
And we're also temporarily using it as what?
and now the Welcome Center until the old one is resurrected. No,
Renovated.
renovated.
There you go. Yeah, they're renovating what was the rail station over there. Was the Welcome Center. It serves as the Welcome Center, but they're renovating here, so they are having everybody come over here for the Welcome Center. And here is, you want to tell everybody, this was the original mill over here. Keep walking over here. This was the original mill over here. I'm sure it's locked. And they, by the way, guys, they do tours in here. Okay, we're not asking for a tour today. We're just doing a video and just kind of doing a fly by the seat of our pants video. But here is the old mill. I don't think any of this is unlocked. And even if it was, I probably would. Here's an old gear and a shaft. Some different things from, let's look at the stonework and everything in here. Here we go, there's something we can read. And it's on the National Historic Register of Historic Places since 1983.
That's broken.
There are some other outbuildings here. We can go up and take a look. Here is Cheney Road. Get a picture of the inside there. I'm putting my GoPro to the window. We could see if we can, an old barrel. Again, I would assume all of this stuff is, look at this old stone. I wonder if this is an old millstone. Wow, it's got a hole bored in the middle of it.
There's a little crack in it.
I'm sure this is locked. Take a little walk. You know, there is a plate over here. Let's go see if we can read off of this plate. Welcome Society of Pennsylvania. So here we go. And there, look, Liverpool. Remember I was talking about the Beatles. I love that. I love how, you know, even though there's hundreds of years between the descendants of this place coming here and originating it and anything to do with music or the Beatles or anything, but I just love seeing Liverpool. If you're a music fan, I'm sure you'll agree. There's another artifact here. I believe, let me see that graph, guys. Here, do me a favor, hold this, hold it up, okay, and just keep it in view and walk a little bit over towards there. I believe that this is the miller's house. This was the house that was built for the miller by okay, so here we are at the miller's house. All right, the miller's house, built in 1739 of stone. It is adjacent to the south side of the mill. There are 2 rooms on each of the 2 floors with a fireplace in each room and a beehive oven attached to the kitchen. A 3rd story was added in 1860 and removed during restoration in the 1960s. This house should not be confused with the Newlin Miller's house about 12 miles north in West Whiteland Township, which was built in the early 19th century by William Newlin and listed separately in the National Register of Historic Places. So this is the miller's house. And I was going to mention in this video, there are other grist mills in this area. This is the Newlin Grist Mill. There's another grist mill over in Glen Mills. I forget what road it's off of, but it's not affiliated with this place, and it's been abandoned a lot longer. There's still some remains and some artifacts there. Wow, look at this stonework.
heater.
There's it. Well, that's actually an air conditioner. You have the air conditioner. So they've air conditioned this. I assume they have. And look in the window here. We have an old Wawa Dairy Farms milk crate.
There's a fish tank in there.
Yeah, there's a fish tank there inside. Probably not gonna be able to get in, but we can take a look inside some of the windows. Yeah, we're not gonna try to open any doors without permission. We don't want to get, I'm with my kids, I don't want to get in trouble. If I was by myself, I'm a little bit more adventurous. Here's some other, oh, look at this. This is really cool. Wow. An old stove out here, oven. An old barn. I know when my kids were little, we took a little walk over here and I told them Jason Voorhees lived in that barn, and then they all wanted to go home. Isn't that funny? I'm terrible. And if you look off in the distance, there's a bunch of honeybee hives down there. So somebody's harvesting honey here. We're not going to go over there because we were stung recently on a fishing trip. And actually, I did not know this was here. Maybe I did. You might be able to see it from Route 1. I got to remember, we're walking parallel with US Route 1 right now. But there's another train trestle. There's so much to explore here, guys. If you're really into, you could come out here and literally bring your lunch and spend a day just walking through everything out here. Learning a lot. I mean, there's a lot of information online. There's even somebody on site today that's an historian for this place that was inside the warehouse down there now that's serving as the welcome center. I could probably go over there and interview somebody, but I don't really have any questions up. But oh yeah, you can't, this is an outhouse, but they have it locked. You can't get in there. I would have to assume, I didn't look at this on the way over. Oh, that's just another, I thought that might have been like a well, but no, that looks like another place where they were doing some cooking outside. So now we're in the back of the old warehouse, the back of the original mill, and technically we're at the side of the Miller house. And when I say Miller, that's not a Miller as in the person, that's like a last name. That was their function here at the grist mill. All right, we're in the parking lot now, and I got to correct the record. I just spoke to somebody over in the archives building. The Newlin family was not physically from Liverpool, England, so I got all excited over nothing or almost nothing. They believe that they're descendants from Ireland. However, they were on some kind of boat or some kind of riverway when they were leaving their native country to come to the United States, and that's where the name Liverpool came from. So I have to stand corrected. I like to make sure that everything is correct for the record. It's still exciting because anytime I see Liverpool, I think about the Beatles, the Fab Four. Who wouldn't, right? Okay. And back in those days, England, Ireland, I mean, everything's in very close proximity anyway. Okay, so right now we are at the log cabin. And Ethan is going to quickly tell us what this log cabin was used for.
In 1965, a log cabin was constructed, which is used for meeting receptions and parties.
And right now the log cabin is also being used for the public restrooms while they have the visitor center being renovated. And actually it's a very nice little restroom back there. Here we go. Rudy's cabin. There's a little, built by Rudy Fields, our first executive director, who was 1959 to 1981, a man who made Heritage a living example of contemporary citizens. Really cool. And I think there's a private function in progress here, so we're not gonna, well, I tried to open the door anyway because that's just how I am. We'll take a little walk. So now we're going to go over to the sandy beach, and this is the spot that is everybody's favorite spot to come to when you're a kid, because you can come over here and skim rocks across the creek, And what's really cool about that is you never run out of rocks, because every time it rains heavy, all the rocks wash back up on the shore. This is a really cool spot. You can absolutely sit over here on the rocks, or bring a little beach chair, or hit one of these picnic benches. I'll take that if you guys want to walk. And these little, so when we were doing it earlier in the video, when we were over at the Black Dam, we were talking about that trail I said that was really overgrown. But that trail leads back to here, like right across there, and you would walk across these rocks to get back here. And we have walked that trail, but over the years it has gotten very overgrown, and I don't know why it's not, like somebody's not going in and clearing it out. I'm not really sure what the story is behind all of that. But this is a great place to skim rocks and just kind of, after taking a walk, I guess for us adults. Well, look at this. Here's a piece from the railway. Over the years, this has really eroded a lot. There used to be more water here, and this was a little harder to get to. But this is actually perfect for. There's actually more square footage now for someone to come stand around and walk, or like I said, just plant a little chair here. But then you got your benches right here, even if you don't bring a chair. We also used to bring our RC cars out here. When we were into that hobby a few years ago. That's a very expensive hobby. That's more expensive than owning a GoPro. And again, it's just such a beautiful day to be out here. I highly recommend coming to this place. And I might, while my kids are throwing rocks, take a little walk out onto the lily pads here. I just have to watch my balance because I have a clipboard in one hand, I'm wearing a backpack, and I'm trying to stabilize the GoPro. I'm hoping that these videos are watchable. And I had planned on doing a lot more talking about the history of this place, but it's just, there's so much history that it would literally be almost impossible to try to do it all in a video. It would probably have to be like almost like a mini series on each, because you can literally just do an oral history on almost every part of this area. So yeah, I made it across pretty easily. The last time we were here, there was actually some water up over some of those rocks, and they do get very slippery when they're wet. Look at that, there's a butterfly, beautiful butterfly. Look at that. I hope you were able to see that. Well, there's two butterflies there. Look how beautiful. Oh, there you go. All right, so we're going to take a walk now. One final little stop on this trip to the Newlin Grist Mill in Glen Mills. We're going to go over to the blacksmith shop. Now, this blacksmith shop was constructed in 1975. It's a replica of an 18th century style blacksmith shop. I know they do some specials over here. They do some like educational seminars. I've seen them in session a couple of times. What's the best way? You know what? We're going to go over this way. Take a little bit of a walk. I want to, while I'm walking, just kind of thank everybody for joining in on this Newlin Grist Mill thing. I highly recommend coming out here. I had some notes. I wanted to do a little bit better of an oral history, but like I keep saying, there's just so much back here. It'd be kind of hard to do without literally spending like several days out here just going over everything. But there's a lot of information readily available online, and if you come out here to take a walk through the park on the site, you'll see a lot of write-ups, you'll see a lot of signs, and you can kind of educate yourself as you go on what the history was. And I think one of the most amazing things is that Newlin ended up buying this back after it was owned by several different families over the years, and I find that to be amazing. I mean, how something centuries later could fall back into the same hands of a descendant. I think the chances of that happening, it's like, you know, 1 in a million almost. And so here is, I'm going to flip this around, and here is the blacksmith shop. And oftentimes when I come here, there is somebody working in here, but this is during the week. So it's a little crack in the glass here. You kind of get a little bit of a glimpse inside. You don't want to make that worse, make anybody get mad. Yeah, usually this door is open on the weekends when there's somebody in there. More water. There's no shortage of water and little bridges out here. And they did a good job reconstructing this place. If I told you this was built in the 1800s, you'd believe it, because it sure looks like it. They did a good job replicating that. It's a bunch of coal ash from fire ash for what they burn. I've come here before, and they've been like liquefying metal in there on little projects. And I did also talk to the people over in archives. I was talking about the mattress box spring. They have that stuff. They didn't put it back into the rebuild over there, but they did incorporate that in. They have that stuff in their archives because it is part of the mill's history. So they're not allowed by regulation or law to throw those things out or discard them, so they do have to save them. And apparently that is what they did. Take another walk over here. All right, right now will pretty much conclude our walk through here. I want to thank everybody for joining us on this journey. I want to thank Allie and Ethan for giving me a hand with the video. If you like this video, please like and share the video. Please like and share my page, the icon at large. If you like this content, we're probably going to do some more stuff here at the Newlin Grist Mill, but for right now, we're going to piece this together and see how it works out, everybody. Thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe to my channel and like my video. It really helps me out. Thank you.